If more of you supported the show, I'd be less sick of podcasts.
Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Sending out good vibes.
Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes.
Blah, blah,
Good vibes.
blah. Blah, blah, blah.
Good vibes. Good vibes.
108 breaths of deep gratitude and prayers for guidance and protection. And put on a didgeridoo and shamanic drumming track. Shivers or vibrations and stuff like that.
Primerica.
Okay, guys, welcome back to the Grimericans show. We are going to be chatting with Lisa Campion a little bit later. Awakening Your Psychic Abilities is the book. We're going to chat about all sorts of psychic stuff and astral travel and all sorts of fun stuff like that. We got everybody's favorite podcaster, Graham, still on the injury list. Dunlop.
I'm back on. What do you mean still on?
Back on? Well, you weren't. I don't think you were ever really off.
Dude, I went and played the other night. I played through the injury.
So then you weren't. You shouldn't have been off the injury list because you're clearly still injured.
No, I have new injuries.
You have these are new injuries.
I have new injuries now. This is how fucking crazy it is. I have like 5 injuries I'm dealing with right now. This is not fun. I mean,
give us a breakdown from worst.
Well, I don't know. I got my ankle. I blocked a shot. See, this is where not being in shape doesn't really matter. I took a shot, a hard shot, like 100 miles an hour. Like I thought maybe it shattered my ankle, but it just hit me right.
100 miles an hour.
Yeah,
like,
dude, the guy that is on our team can shoot like as hard as
it's possible to shoot a ball.
Oh yeah, dude, I could almost shoot it 100 miles at my size. This guy can really whack it, dude. I had one of the highest wrist and slap shot combinations together back in the day.
So what were you ironing that? Well, you got radar.
So, yeah, dude, 70 mile an hour wrist shot.
What was the slap shot?
It's like 92, 80, 86, 88, maybe.
86 is a long way from 100 miles an hour.
92, I think maybe 90. I can't remember. That was when I was in shape.
Sounds like you're fucking blowing smoke out your ass, Dunlop. I need to bring a radar gun. I wonder where you can get a radar gun these days. I feel like they're easier to get with all because now they're like a construction safety product.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Oh, yeah. We had to have the cops bring them to our practices. That's what it was. Like your buddy would be a cop and he'd bring it and we'd set it up behind the net. Anyways, so that was just a bruise.
You got a 100 mile an hour slap shot in the ankle. You thought you shattered it.
It was just a bruise. I walked it off, got back into the game, and then towards the end of the game, I pulled my hamstring. I was like 3-on-1 with the ball, my hamstring tweak. I'm like, holy fuck. So I finally made a smart decision and didn't play the rest of the game. And now I'm just fucking on ice and recovering. Like,
how far into the game did you have to call it quits?
Like right towards the end, like 5 minutes left.
Oh, so you weren't like a total pussy. It wasn't like a parent. It was like, I feel like if you have to leave the game and it's not at least the last 15 minutes, you look like a total fucking.
Yeah, but I was like, no, I'm not going to play because we were getting spanked again too. I mean, that's the other problem. We just been getting our asses kicked.
Are you a sore loser?
I'm being someone. I mean, I started off the season fine. I was all chipper, everything's good. Now I'm just getting super frustrated. I'm like, oh my god, we're just getting our asses kicked.
Have you broken any sticks?
No, I don't do that kind of. I slap them around.
I used to play with a real stick slammer.
Anyways, I'm just nursing it, but it's like.
Well, you only got to 2. You had the ankle and the hammy.
Well, those are the 2 latest ones, and I still have my Achilles problem, and my shoulder, and my knee. But my knee's not bad. My shoulder's not bad. It's a chronic one that's just coming back. It's yeah. I think that's it. What else? Yeah, I think that's it. So,
well, shit.
I'm feeling pretty good. I'll be back. I'll be back soon.
That's good.
But I'm missing the game tonight.
Bouncing back.
Yeah.
Just fight through the injuries. You'll be okay.
But dude, I got to get in. I should not have played being so out of shape. I've already lost. Just in 2 days, I've lost 4 pounds. I'm going on a bit of a fasting diet kind of thing. I need to, that was my bottom. After that night was my physical fitness bottom.
It's rock bottom.
It's rock bottom from a physical fitness standpoint. I'm like, oh my God. Because you know why? My fucking hamstring went and I wasn't even doing anything. I wasn't even sprinting that hard. I was just casually going over the line, and then I got it tweaked.
Yeah, well, I mean, dude, I've been telling you for almost a year now that at your age you need to get off the bench.
I know. I got to get in shape.
And the only reason I brought it up is because I was starting to worry even at my age, and I'm, a fair bit younger than you.
A decade younger than me.
So it's going to be definitely. But if you hammer down for the summer, you could go into the fall. Ship shape.
Oh, it even won't take me long, dude. Like a couple weeks of just this fasting diet, a little bit of exercise every day, and I'll be back on it.
Every day I'm hustling.
But I wanted to mention I want to mention about Lisa Campion. Like, this is a fantastic episode. It was more than I expected it would be. I mean, we talk about awakening your psychic ability, which is important, and the difference between that and intuition and all that stuff. But we also get into some of her fascinating background about being sort of into martial arts as a young girl, and going to the Shaolin temples and pushing, like, seeing like these masters push chi and shit. So and we talk about fascinating UFO sightings with the night vision goggles. Like, it's pretty cool.
Absolutely. It's good stuff.
Yeah. What's going on with you? Do you want to talk about anything personal?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so.
No. Oh, well, we should mention. Let's mention the new Grimerica Outlawed that we have. So we have this whole other show, Grimerica Outlawed, which is usually interview style. Second half for subs only on either Locals or Substack or on the GrimericaOutlawed.ca website, right? As a podcast.
Oh yeah, and then we started doing our roundups, which are once weekly. 1 week is free. Next week is for our subscribers, and it's kind of like probably the only other place of the intro where you could hear us talk politics and pop culture,
pop culture war stuff.
Yeah, so you have GrimericaOutlawed.ca. You can watch it on YouTube. You can check all that stuff out. Well, the free ones will be sort of mainstream political, all sorts of that stuff. Mostly from a Canadian perspective. A lot of Indian stuff slid in, of course, because I'm an Indian. And then the next week will be, the little more hard hitting, where we go after some of the trans agenda stuff, the COVID stuff. We can make a list a mile long. I mean, all of the vaccination conversation is third round now, not just the COVID one. So there's a bunch of stuff we can get into. Pedophilia. I mean, not into it, like we're into it, but talk about how terrible it is. And we're going to do all that. Now we've started doing sort of a news roundup show where we can talk about that kind of stuff. We don't want to do it here because we haven't done it here historically. But if that's something you guys are into, head to GrimericaOutlawed.ca and search Primerica Outlawed in your podcast player. The first episode will come out this week. So check it out. See if you like.
Yeah, and other than this, we don't really have a platform for that because our other stuff is interview style. So we can kind of talk about our points of view a little bit along the way on some of those interviews, depending on which ones. But this will sort of give us more of an outlet because we get all these things coming across our desk all the time. Interesting articles, stuff that doesn't get talked about enough from the Canadian side of things. And, even the scientific Substack sort of side of things that, like, I've been keeping an eye on all this and we don't really have anywhere to talk about it. So we're just going to do this whole other thing.
And you guys can check it out. Let us know if you like it. If that's something you like. So what about you? What's new in your personal life? Well,
we already talked about it. It's just we already went there.
This is our last week for holidays.
Yeah. Yeah, we're gonna do a bunch of prepping, I guess, pre-recording intros and stuff for you're going away for a couple weeks.
Yeah, so for a few weeks, the intros will probably be a little shorter. We're gonna pre-prep them, so we'll probably record a bunch this weekend and Monday. Get ready, I'll be gone down in the USA for the 4th of July and for a couple weeks. Down in Oregon and California, and check out a bunch of national parks and state parks. And this time with the kids in tow and the missus. and the camper. So we'll have a time. We'll be down there for 2 or 3 weeks, checking out all the sites and coming at you. So if you're down that route somewhere along the way, you want to meet for coffee or something like that, and it's something I can swing, if it's someplace I'm hanging out, let me know. Maybe we can do something. Other than that, I'll be hanging out pretty low key for a couple of weeks.
Cool.
Yeah.
That'll be good.
You'll be here working, slaving.
Well, I might have to take off for a few days, but I'll be working as much as I can. Yeah.
Heading out to Saskland.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
What a great place to go. You know, I've never been to Saskatoon though. Might be better than Regina. Regina is a real piece of shit.
I had a
real shame.
I had a terrible hockey tournament there once, and oh yeah, it was a disaster.
As a kid, or
no, as an
adult on the shit when you're still boozing.
No, it wasn't actually. I think it was after that.
After you cleaned up your act.
Yeah. So, it was just like you say. It was just Saskatoon's a pretty little town, I guess, but I don't know, man. A lot of these cities they're struggling, dude. They're struggling. The homelessness, the drug addiction, the crime. I mean, it's kind of just happening all over.
I think we just had 3 cities voted in the top times to live in Canada.
The top what?
I think 3 Canadian cities were just voted out of the top in the world. Calgary, Vancouver, Montreal, maybe.
Wow, that's interesting.
It is. You know, the more places I visit, the more I don't mind Calgary as far as cities go. I'm not a big city fan. I prefer, smaller cities or towns or the country or the bush. But as far as like cities of over 1 million people go, Calgary's not bad. There's a lot of real fucking shitholes out there. And, Calgary's got some shithole-ness to it. But all in all, it's not bad. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
The winter really clears out the homeless. So it keeps that at a sustainable level. And we don't have as many crackheads as Vancouver. So again, I think that's winter related, probably like government related too.
Well, it still started creeping around like in a greater circle. The crime and the unsafe feeling of walking around in the city started getting expanded.
Downtown's like the Walking Dead.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were down there? You should come to work with me one day and just
long time ago.
Yeah. See what it's like by the crackers and stuff. It's at a level I never thought possible.
Well, we should do a podcast. Yeah, we'll do a podcast from the truck.
Well, I don't know about podcasting during work, but because the problem is, you could probably go down there early on a Saturday or Sunday morning and see some shit, but the real dystopian aspect of it is seeing it all alongside the daily hustle and bustle. There's like a bunch of people hiding under a little makeshift shelter made out of shopping carts and jackets, smoking crack next to that daycare.
Yeah.
And no one cares.
Yeah, that's a good, yeah.
What am I going to do? That's kind of situation you tell people to move along, but one of those motherfuckers will stab you.
I want to get into that. If anybody has a suggestion of who to talk to about addiction, I mean, I should know better being in recovery and all that, but I mean, I've tried to get a hold of some people. I do have some people we can go to, but if anybody has somebody they think would be a good guest, I do want to talk about that a little bit, this harm reduction thing. Actually, we should probably just get the person I know on about it.
Sure.
I think she's an advocate for harm reduction. And I'd like to push back on that a little bit. Yeah.
What's harm reduction? I'd say lock the motherfuckers up at this point.
That's definitely anti-harm reduction.
Okay.
Harm reduction sounds good, but it's a pretty wide umbrella that encompasses a whole bunch of different things, like harming themselves, harming other people, harming the environment, harming the neighborhood, the community.
Maybe we don't have to lock them up, but we got to get them the fuck off the street somehow.
Well, that's very controversial, right?
This is encouraging it.
Well, this is exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I'd be happy to have that conversation with someone and present the side of fucking lock them up.
For example, let's say you have a safe injection site somewhere, but you can't force them to use in that building. So
I was able to be a
because
drug addict.
because you're hurting their feelings, you're harming them so that you're allowing them to go onto the street in somebody's doorway of their apartment complex to use needles and smoke crack or whatever it is you're doing there. So you're worried about the rights of the person who's using the stuff. You're not worried about
no.
people that live in the area that have to walk out of their apartment with their pets with all this paraphernalia around or with not feeling safe because there's people using hard drugs right there.
Yeah.
So what about those?
But I don't know. I don't understand the first sentence. The rights of the person doing the drugs. I mean,
that's what I'm saying.
Fucking rights to forfeit by doing that kind of shit in public. I mean, I'm all for freedom. You want to go home and do some drugs? That's fucking fine. If I don't even know if you can find a tent someplace under a bridge. I don't fucking care. Just keep it off the street, away from the kids.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it does. Time and time again, people want to say it's fucking victimless. But time and time again, it's someone who's not a fucking drug addict getting stabbed or beat or blah, 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 fill in the fucking blank. That's the people who get fucked up. So where do their rights begin?
Yeah, that's kind of the conversation I want to have. Yeah.
And the other conversation is, where do my rights to say what my fucking money gets spent on begin? Because I don't want to pay for somebody's fucking drugs, whether they're trying to get clean or better off there or it's safer for them or whatever the fuck it is. I can tell you what it's not. My fucking problem.
This is the problem, though. They're not trying to get clean in a lot of cases. There is no.
I don't care if they are. It still shouldn't be my financial responsibility.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know, but it would help if there was a goal of cleanliness or abstinence.
That would help me be less against it having become my financial responsibility. But I'm still always you can't just be taking my fucking money and spending it on whatever the fuck you want. Period. Yeah. If that's something I want to support,
it's for the greater good.
Then I will donate some fucking money down to the local fucking drug, rehab place.
Yeah.
That's how these things used to run, right? That's how they used to run. People got clean. All those people that get clean end up successful in some way down the road, and they give back to those fucking things they came from, But now it's just my fucking problem. It's my fiduciary problem. And then when I get fucking sick, I'm not allowed in the hospital because I didn't take your fucking shit. It's like, no. This is all.
Yeah.
You can't just keep taking the money. It's all now I just got to question every cent. You can't have my money to spend it on anything. Nothing.
Yeah. All right.
I feel bad for those people, but I just don't feel, I feel bad for a lot of people in a lot of different situations. And I don't feel like we should decide which ones we're going to help out and which ones we're not on that level.
Yeah. No, I mean, I almost
fucking any of them, honestly, as much as I don't know, it's harsh to say that. It's harsh to say that, but I don't trust the government with my money, and their programs don't work anyway.
Right. And I mean, I come from there. I almost made it. I almost ended up on the street. I mean, a little bit longer. I pulled my chute just at the right time. And I didn't end up there, but I mean, it was close. So
I never officially pulled my chute.
But the problem is, not the problem, but I think my success in that was because I shot for abstinence, like I wasn't trying to just like continue to use in some controllable way for years and years and years.
Exactly. And you weren't, imagine like you were at a spot where you were going to be fucking homeless. We're at a spot where we're pushing towards the opposite of that, or you might be homeless, but we're still going to keep giving you enough money to fucking buy drugs with.
Yeah.
But just enough money to buy drugs with, so that every other part of your life is a drain on my system, including the drugs that I gave you the money to buy. You know? Anyway, that's a weird thing to get into on the Grimerica intro. I mean, I'm all for people getting clean. I'm just sick of fucking paying for it. When I look at just the personal amount of taxes they've taken off of my paychecks over the last 10 years, it's like, what in the fuck do I get for that?
Yep. Exactly.
Ostracized.
Yeah. You get to be the most censored Indian cowboy in Canada.
Censored Indian Canada. I don't know why you just love to add that cowboy on there. People love the Indian cowboy.
Well, we are in Calgary. And you have a cowboy hat and a bunch of guns. I mean, you are like almost a perfect cowboy, except you're like a bit brown.
And a horse.
And a horse. You got a horse.
Indians have horses. And cowboy hats. Believe it or not.
That's what I said.
Anyway. Yeah.
So I got a quote for you.
Grimericans.ca/support, guys. Support is lower than ever for this Value for Value podcast. We expected some of that when we started the membership-based podcast over on the other one, but there's still, tens of thousands of people downloading this podcast. So, I mean, maybe it seems like a bunch of you still listen to it. Maybe forget that this podcast still does take a lot of work, a lot of time, a lot of
money,
talent, money, all that. And we had the big PayPal thing where everyone fucking quit PayPal, and most of those subscriptions never came back in any shape or form. Maybe out of 200 subscriptions lost, we got about 20 back. So maybe you're one of those people, you lost your PayPal subscription back then. Maybe you're over the PayPal thing. Maybe you're not. There's Stripe too. There's a bunch of different ways to support. You send us cash. Primerica.ca/support, guys. This is our call for you. Heading into summer, we need some support. Like I say, our support for this show is lower than it's been in 5 years.
We don't want Graham to go back to work. We're going to day job.
I mean, have to give up one of the shows. That'd be terrible. Maybe this one I'll go to once every 2 weeks. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's too much value, or not enough. Maybe it's not valuable enough. Anyway, Grimericans.ca/support, guys. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you just forgot. Sign up for a monthly today. Make a one-time donation, or tell us why you can't donate, or don't even do that. If you can't donate, just share the shit out of the show, because we're shadow banned every place. Every place. I'm not even allowed on most social media right now, except Instagram.
That's the thing. I mean, I was thinking about that. Remember the day when we first started out this podcast, 2013, we had a good start. We were very fortunate. We had some great guests on right away. Like, we have been very, very fortunate. We've been doing this steadily for every week for 10 years. And I remember those days, like, you would actually show up on the front page of the iTunes podcast directly. Like, that was a way people found you. Like, people would actually find you in iTunes. I don't know, not even YouTube back then, really. I mean, there wasn't even a lot of other apps. It was kind of like all sort of, there was some other apps, but that discoverability is just gone now. And now all the mainstream people have their own podcasts, and all the researchers have their own podcasts. And I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it's changed so much in 10 years from a discoverability point, especially with all the shadow banning. So I guess that's what I'm saying with all the shadow banning it's very, very difficult to get yourself seen out of this little milieu that we're already in. Whereas before, it kind of just happened a little bit organically.
I like how Instagram tells you they're shadow banning you. If I go to my Instagram account status, it'll actually say, let's see, features I can't use. I can't go live for 25 days. That was at 90 days for a little while. I think I might have mentioned that. It took a little off. It took 60 days off for good behavior.
Do we have a jingle for your censorship segment?
No one sent in a censorship one.
Okay.
We do have Old Faithful.
Bingo, bango, social media jingle.
But if I go to my account status on my Instagram, it'll just tell me straight up. It says, your account cannot be shown to non-followers. So, but it's still blowing up.
Where do I find that? In settings and privacy, or where?
You have to go to settings, account status.
Settings, account. I'm just going to look at our main Grimerica.
It'll say if there's features you can't use, or
more an account center, maybe.
I have Facebook hit me up with like 330 days concurrently, and it was all on content that was old, like stuff I posted in April and May and March.
Oh, that's so
bam,
weird.
Bam. I can't go live for 90 days or some shit.
It's so weird.
And then Twitter just banned the shit out of me. They won't let me back on. They won't hear my appeals. I'm just still appealing. I've appealed 35 times now. They just don't want to hear it. So, That's but if you want to follow me on Instagram, that's my only real personal social media presence right now, where I share some of the best memes in the world. Is Darren_Grimes_. You'll have to type that in exactly, or you won't find me.
Be prepared, though. I mean, be prepared.
It'll warn you multiple times. It'll ask you if you're sure that you want to follow me, and you might not be sure. You might not be ready for the heat that I bring on Instagram. You might not be ready. Remember, Graham famously kicked me off of the Grimerica Instagram account.
Did I? I don't think so.
Man. Yeah, you did. Because what we got we got a suspension or something for something, and you're like, Jesus, man. So if you want to see the dankest memes, Darren_Grimes_. Of course, we got our other chat, grimerica.ca/chats. You can jump in there. And then there's still the Telegram, which I like more and more. I don't mind that interface.
Yeah.
Which is Grimerica Telegram.
We kind of got trolled for a while in there. It kind of got nasty for a little bit. And we were like, what is going on here, you guys? It's supposed to be for listeners of the show, people interacting, friends of the show, like not for people just to troll us with a bunch of bullshit. So that got cleaned up, and it's been pretty good again.
Absolutely. All right, let's have the jingle, right, for the quote.
It's the profound quote of the week. Darren, can you guess it? It's the profound quote of the week.
I don't think we've ever heard this one before. Okay, who said this? From the days of Spartacus, Weishaupt, to those of Karl Marx, and down to Trotsky, Russia, Bela Kun, Hungary, Rosa Luxemburg, Germany, and Emma Goldman, United States. This worldwide conspiracy for the overthrow of civilization and for the reconstitution of society on the basis of arrested development, of envious malevolence, and impossible equality has been steadily growing. It played, as a modern writer, Mrs. Webster has so ably shown, a definitely recognizable part in the tragedy of the French Revolution. By the way, that must be Nesta Webster, who, well, we're just going to interrupt this quote for a second, because Nesta Webster is, her book is on our audiobook channel. It's on our audiobook website, addlebrain.ca, and it's on Audible that we did, and it's called, do you remember what that one is, Darren?
No, I remember the name. Was it Ayn Rand?
No, it's Nesta. No, I'm not finished that. It's Secret Societies and Subversive Movements from Nesta H. Webster.
That's what it was.
Check out our book from her. So then to continue on here, it has been the mainspring of every subversive movement during the 19th century. And now at last, this band of extraordinary personalities from the underworld of the great cities of Europe and America have gripped the Russian people by the hair of their heads and to become practically the undisputed masters of that enormous empire.
I don't know.
Winston Churchill.
You think he was all right or what?
I don't know. Not really, but that quote sounds all right. I mean, this is one of those conundrums, I think.
I got some new Ayn Rand shirts in today.
What is it? Your Ayn Rand shirt say?
This one just says objectivist. A equals A. Which we got some controversy in 2023.
I don't really like her objectivism.
Objectivism has always caused some bullshit. And then I got an Atlas Shrugged one and a Henry Rourke architecture one.
Cool.
Yeah, well, you're a bleeding heart, Graham. Still, you're not. You haven't fully.
No. It's more of a spiritual thing. It's more of a spiritual reality than her objectivism. That's all.
She's an atheist.
Yeah, that's the part.
Atheistic. But if you just mix that with spirituality, then she's more spiritual than she thinks.
Exactly.
All right.
I got a project. I got one.
You got a WAPO?
I got a Wapo.
What's that noise?
Looks military to me. Definitely military. Probably classified, too.
Dish Fire, Prism, Sentry Eagle, Sigma, Mannequin, Artichoke, MK Ultra. Operation Project.
I had to do this one because, this is because of our episode with Lisa Campion. I thought it was appropriate. I tried to find one that's kind of fitting for this. So this is Stargate Project, investigate psychic abilities. This might be the weirdest of all the government secrets. Starting in the 70s, the CIA conducted a series of experiments in hopes of unlocking the secret to remote viewing. This process theoretically allows people to see or experience things that are far away by reaching out with their minds. They say the CIA, it lasted almost 20 years. The CIA wouldn't shut it down until 95, finally concluding that it hadn't produced any effective results. Go figure. So when I get into that a little bit, it says, this is from CNET and it's quite a few years old, but it talks about the CIA releases psychic experiment documents, and they say Stranger Things got it wrong. It was the CIA and the Department of Defense, not the Department of Energy, that conducted covert research on potential psychic abilities. Now, I would like to say that that's because that was back then. Nowadays, the DOE is involved in all those national labs. I mean, they're the ones that are funding all that stuff. So I think Stranger Things got it right. From a modern perspective, that's just people don't think that the DOE funds a lot of this stuff, but right? Remember we did that Black Budget episode way back.
Yeah.
On all the labs. I mean, the DOE was funding all those, like Lawrence Livermore and Los Alamos, and
didn't that come out in this feed?
I don't know.
I can't remember.
So
probably deleted it too.
So the dubious fictional experiments run by the Department of Energy and Stranger Things may have actually been conducted in real life by the CIA and the DoD. Among the millions of declassified documents the CIA uploaded to the site this week, quite a few reveal information about the Stargate Project. The program worked under various code names. We've talked about some of these code names, such as Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Center Lane, Sunstreak, and Scannet. It focused on remote viewing, which involves someone known as a remote viewer seeing an object, person, or place from a great distance with one's mind or via an out-of-body experience. According to one of the declassified documents uploaded to the CIA site, the Stargate Project at one time consisted of an activity chief, a senior intel officer, 3 operational remote viewers, a tech, and a secretary. Its sole purpose was to test the methodologies. It apparently proved to be fruitless. I don't think we would agree on that. This isn't the first time the CIA has uploaded unusual files to its website. Do you remember we used to look at that CIA reading room? They've uploaded 1,700 declassified UFO reports. So this article came out in January 2017. So maybe this is also part of the reason why that disclosure happened in 2017 with Leslie Kane and that New York Times article.
Was that the Tic Tac? Was 2017?
Yeah, 2017.
Huh.
Hard to believe. It's already been 6 years.
Hard to believe it's been 10 years of podcasting.
It's hard to believe it's been longer. Our podcasting it's been longer since that than before that.
There you have it.
So it says the declassification of 25-year-old records is mandated by executive order, which requires agencies to review all such records categorized as permanent under the Federal Records Act for declassification. Approximately 930,000 documents, that's 12 million pages, are now available in the CIA's electronic reading room on its website. At least we have a way to pass the time while we wait for the new episodes of the X-Files.
We just get 12 million people to read a page each. Couldn't we?
Yeah, there you go. That's a good way to do it.
All right. Is that all you got?
That's all I got. I got links in the show notes to that.
Support the show, guys. Do you have a bio? Do you have a bio for...
Yeah.
Lisa?
So Lisa Campion is the author of the #1 best-selling books, The Art of Psychic Reiki, and the award-winning Energy Healing for Empaths, as well as the upcoming books, Awaken Your Psychic Ability and Psychic Awakening Journal. She's a psychic counselor, Reiki master teacher with over 30 years of experience who specializes in training emerging psychics, empaths, and healers to step into their, sorry, my cat's flipping out right now, to full step into their gifts, since the world needs all the healers it can get.
There you have it, guys. We need all the healers we can get. We need all the support we can get. And more than that, we need you guys to enjoy this chat with the one and only Lisa Campion.
Hey, Lisa, how you doing? Welcome to Grimerica.
Hey, Graham. Thanks. I'm doing really great. Thanks for having me on your show.
Yeah. This will be fun. Yeah, you being on the other end of it for once, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So we want to talk for sure about your new book, Awakening Your Psychic Ability. Important topic. We'll find out why, but maybe like just a little bit about your background, a little bit of a Reader's Digest version of yourself, give some people some context.
Yeah. Thank you for asking. So, I was one of those I See Dead People kids and grew up I was born just outside Boston, Massachusetts in the 60s and grew up in the 60s, 70s and 80s, really just trying to figure out what the heck was going on. What was I experiencing? What was happening? And back then there were no books on the topic, no podcasts on the topic, no psychics on TV, nothing. And so I spent the first 20 years of my life trying to figure out how to turn it off and basically just pretend to be normal in public so I could get by. And now I feel really, really passionately about helping other people that are going through psychic openings learn how to manage their gifts so they don't have to do it the hard way like I did.
So this was like you were young, right? Like what, 6 or 7 or something like that?
I honestly think I was born that way. So my very, very, very first memory is lying in my crib and looking up and seeing all these light beings around me, like all these glowing people, blowing kisses and all this light. And then my mom walks in the room and comes towards and they all disappear. That's my very first memory ever.
So when you say you see dead people, like literally you see sort of people's ghosts or apparitions, but also light beings, like can you tell the difference between the types of beings when you were younger?
Yeah, I could. I used to call the dead when I grew up in a really haunted house, one of those big old mama Victorian houses, and I don't know if it was haunted before I got there or if, psychic children are sort of ghost magnets and, just attract spirits. But when I was little, I called them the gray people and they would sit on the edge of my bed and talk to me at night. And, my parents were like, you have such a good imagination. Like, look at you thinking of all this stuff, Well, I don't know where you think of all those ideas, but that, to me, it was a real experience of seeing them, feeling them, communicating with them. And I knew that if I listened to them, they felt better. And they were really different from the light beings that I saw, like when I was 3, when my sister was born and my dad took me to the hospital to look in the little nursery window, and there were all these like swirling forms of light in there. And later I figured out they were angels, but I didn't really know what they were, when I was 3. So I just have had those experiences my whole life and had a kind of revelatory moment when I snuck in the movies to see the movie Poltergeist. I was probably 12. And there's a psychic. There's this, professional psychic. And I remember going, oh my God, that's the thing you can do. I'm going to be that. I'm going to do that. And she gives this little message about, what ghosts are, why they get stuck, and how you cross them over. And I was like, oh my gosh, somebody knows something. It sparked a lifelong love of horror movies and paranormal movies. I got a lot of my early education by watching paranormal horror movies.
Wow. Did your parents experience anything on any of the haunted stuff in your house?
Kind of. Yeah, they did. Things would happen like the lights would flash and, the stereo would turn on and off, TV would turn on and off and things. But my parents were really cool. They were hippies. They were kind of like, liberal hippie types. But they didn't know, they didn't like drag me to church and throw holy water on me like happens to some psychic kids. But they were kind of like scratching their head and going, oh, well, she'll grow out of having all those imaginary friends. But when they look back on it, and when my sister looked back on it, it's clear there was a lot of activity in our house for sure.
What do you ever think? Why did you get chosen? Like, I know you kind of believe that everybody has the ability, or everybody can learn to do it, but why you, do you think?
I feel like it just was part of my life purpose, and that my purpose here, my job here, is to help other people who are going through sudden psychic openings or having their psychic opens even slowly, and to help all the people that identify themselves as sensitives, healers, empaths really understand their gifts and train them up. I like to help people go through that process in a more graceful way than I did, thrashing around and learning it all the hard way.
Yeah.
So I just feel like, I don't know, that I was born with that as my part of my life purpose.
Did it never scare you at all? Like the sort of the ghosts and the hauntings, like even watching The Exorcist as a kid. I mean, like, were you ever afraid of that part of it?
Sure. Yeah, of course. Demons just scare the heck out of me. And if they don't scare the heck out of you, it's because you don't know enough. You don't know enough about them. But they, that stuff was really scary. But for the most part, spirits don't scare me. People scare the crap out of me on a regular basis. Living people. But spirits, I just never was that afraid of them. They don't have much power in our dimension. They don't have, much capacity to, despite what paranormal in horror movies would show you. They're just kind of whispers here more than anything else. But real people are often the problem. That they're more scary to me.
Before I forget to ask this question, it's kind of an unusual one, but I just heard the other day from one of these guys studying the UFO, like one of the prominent scientists coming forward about the UFO thing, says that he found out that a bunch of people with abilities, like psychic abilities and other abilities, had a more condensed basal ganglia. I don't know if you know what the basal ganglia is, but it's this part of your brain that kind of wraps around and is responsible for like movement and all kinds of like normal functions. But he said that there seems to be some evidence there that says that people who have these experiences have a different basal ganglia.
Well, that's not unsurprising to me. I feel like I know my brain is different than other people's, and I wrote a blog, an article a while back, called "Are All Psychics Neurodiverse?" And I think the answer is yes. So I just think like I have super bad learning disabilities. I can't do math. I'm very dysgraphic, and I'm like, well, I can't do math, but I can't talk to dead people. So, it's a good trade-off.
How do you know, or is there a protocol that you have that, this is like the big question that sort of we always kind of have to ask and stuff is, that you're not getting somebody in there tricking you, like some trickster, or that some, like when you communicate with whoever's on the other side or whatever you're doing, like how do you protect yourself from deception, I guess?
Super important question. And it's one that I care a lot about in my teaching my students and in myself, mostly because I think we learn the hard way when we don't know what we're doing, And my answer is don't do unsafe psychic practices. Don't use a Ouija board or spirit board. Don't take the Ouija board to the abandoned mental hospital and smoke a lot of weed. and then see what comes through. Like, don't do that stuff. Like if we use sort of our street smarts about it, and we know how to rise above the astral plane, which is where most of those trickster beings are hanging out, we can avoid a lot of that. You just have to have common sense and know some things. And then we can use, everyone has this basic discernment, that we all do. If a living person walks through the door, what they say, it takes like 10 seconds or under for you to decide whether that person is, I break it down into good, bad, or neutral, creepy, wonderful, or neutral. And we just do this. And I think that's actually a pretty incredible psychic skill that everyone has, but we can do the same thing with spirits. So if you feel something in the middle of your room in the middle of the night, we have to kind of get over that feeling of being startled, because our initial reaction is, oh my God, there's something in my room and it's in the middle of the night. Once you get over that feeling of being startled, your natural ability to discern is going to kick in, and you're going to know if it's one of your spirit guides and it's a helpful being. You're going to feel uplifted and calm and safe. If it's a neutral spirit passing through, you're just like, I don't know what it is. And if it's bad, it feels bad. We just know.
Okay, so I got to jump into that then. So what if you sense the bad spirit in your room in the middle of the night and it's attacking you? Like, what do you do? How do you get out of that? I know it's kind of jumping into the deep end, but I mean, that's
it's a
the
great
question
question
I'm going to ask in the end.
I love that question. I think there's a couple things, that we do. And the first is like, I sort of start asking politely, like if an actual spirit came through. And most spirits aren't going to start off attacking. A lot of times they're like, oh my gosh, you can see me? I'm so sorry. I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon, ma'am. And a lot of times they'll leave like, excuse me, do you mind? It's the middle of the night, please leave. So if that doesn't work, then we level up. We call on a higher power. Like really feel your power, like take a deep breath, feel your power in your solar plexus. And I point my finger and I say, I use my bad dog voice, like bad spirit, get out, and if that doesn't work, then we have to do this spiritual equivalent of calling the cops. And that's where you call on a higher power in the name of Jesus Christ, Archangel Michael, Buddha, Allah, whatever. I command that you leave. And that is calling on these higher forces that are stronger than we are as we little humans to come in and take care of it. Now, 99% of the time, 90% of the time, one of those things is going to work. And if it doesn't, you've got a bigger problem. That's when you need to call in like really a specialist who can handle, the really negative, malevolent spirits, which fortunately they're out there, but they're not really that common.
Yeah. Do you do that? Do you deal with that kind of stuff, or do you
not anymore?
With somebody else?
I'm done with that. I used to do it. I spent years and years doing it. About 10 years back in the 90s and the early 2000s, and same thing. No one was doing it. I had no idea what I was doing. Made every mistake in the book. Learned it all the hard way. And now, definitely I contracted out. It's a high risk specialist psychic skill, not for the faint of heart. And really, you should be very, very well trained if you're going to do that. And there are people who are really good at it. So I'm more of a healer, that's more my jam.
Does Jesus work better than those other names you mentioned? Because I mean, it comes up all the time too, where Jesus seems to be the answer to. A lot of people say that's the only way they can get rid of it.
He was a fantastic exorcist.
Or is it just about the intention more than the name?
I think the name does matter. Yeah. Jesus works because he was a great exorcist. He's always casting demons out of people, and Archangel Michael works really well too. And there are certain ascended masters who specialize in sort of exorcisms or spirit removal, and I think calling on them actually does work better. But I also feel like calling really whoever you feel comfortable with. If there's something in your faith tradition, we don't all come from the same faith traditions, but if you really have a feeling or a connection with one of the ascended masters or archangels, then use that.
Yeah. What about, do you have a question?
Yeah. What has the weed got to do with it? Because I'm smoking weed all the time. Am I letting bad shit in, or what's going on?
You can be. If you start getting paranoid, then that's something to think about. So sometimes, and weed is really good medicine for a lot of people. It's really good stuff for if your brain chemistry needs it, by all means, do it. But for people that are really psychic, it can compromise the boundary layer of your energy field. Sometimes I see like almost shreds in people's this outside edge of their field. And my theory is that if you start feeling really paranoid, if you're smoking a lot of weed and you get to that paranoid phase, it's because you've kind of shredded your first line of defense. And that might be a time when you step back. It tends to weaken our defenses and make you more psychic at the same time, which isn't always a great comment. Like if you're sitting at home chilling out, that's fine. But if you're exploring the abandoned mental hospital with a Ouija board, it's going to compromise you in a way that might be really.
Well, I'm just sort of like, I'm just high, whatever I'm doing. It doesn't matter if it's at work in the morning or.
And you're never paranoid, so I wouldn't worry about that leaky layer. I mean,
don't worry about it.
Today, before I pass the cop car, I put the weed in the center console because I always know when I pass a cop, it's an opportunity to get pulled over.
Right.
But, I'm not feeling
you weren't paranoid about it?
No, I'll have that conversation. I mean, I'm going the speed I'm going. That's it, motherfucker.
I've never heard that paranoid thing before. It's
dude,
kind of
I know
interesting.
some people that freak the fuck out.
No. I mean about the association with the leaky seal or whatever you're calling it.
Yeah,
I used to get paranoid a little bit as
that's why psychic. Because when you eat it, it's even worse, right? People eat it and they get fucking crazy paranoid. They think they're dying.
I know.
Or there's that video of the cops that called the cops on themselves, called 911 on themselves because they like busted some kids and ate their edibles and then they thought they were going to die. And it sounds crazy, but I know like a half a dozen people personally, my fiance included, that have ate too many edibles at some point and thought they were going to die.
That doesn't go well for you. Yeah, I know. I mean, for some people, cannabis just fixes your brain chemistry, and caffeine fixes my brain chemistry. Like I don't know, we all have our things, right? That work for us, and also alcohol also can blur the boundary of your energy field, and so you're in a place like a club or a bar, and bars, the kind of bars where people go to drink, like not the fun, happy wine, bistros, but
the lounge,
day drinker bars, like those ones. They are full of entities and negative spirits. That is not a cool place to drop your boundary. And then you go in there and drink too. And you just, I think part of the hangover sometimes is we pick up some friends when we drink, or substance abuse in places like that.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I went through, it just makes me think, because I went through recovery 15 years ago and I was a paranoid, I would get a little paranoid on the weed, and sometimes on acid and mushrooms, I would get a bit paranoid too. I couldn't even, be out in public or anything like that. But I wonder if, me sort of hitting the bottom and having to go through all that was somewhat a spiritual malady, for me.
I do think that there's something there, back when I used to have my office, my brick and mortar office, there was a sober house right down the street from me, and the kids, mostly kids, would come through there, and they'd come and they'd knock on my back door, and they were like, "We heard you help people like us," and I'd bring them in, and I would take all the entities off of them, and a lot of times people who have been really struggling with addiction, drug or alcohol addiction, get kind of covered with stuck dead people who are also addicted to their substance. Sometimes those addictions are so strong they keep you earthbound. Like your addiction is so strong, you don't cross over, and then you kind of latch on to somebody else. Who's doing your same substance, and then there's often a lot of non-human, real entities on them too, because they have these compromised energy fields with a lot of internal pain, a lot of pain and suffering. And that's often what the food for these non-human entities, these astral entities, are. So what would happen is I'd take all that off of them, and they just did a lot better in their recovery. The recovery was easy, easier for them if I could clear off all that spiritual, hangers on. It gave them a leg up in their recovery.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah. I used to like to do that.
So
felt like I was really helping.
Yeah, well, for sure.
Can you see that shit when you see that kid? You just see him crawling around on him like little lice or something?
Yes, they look like all different kinds of things. Sometimes they look like, like there's a person standing next to you or a little too close to you, or I'll see like, I'll look at you and I'll see like sort of creepy. So I apologize, but I'll see like a face kind of swimming around in your body somewhere. And I'm like, what's that? Like, what? That's not good. Or they look kind of like leeches or ticks kind of that have to be removed. So it's not really that nice to look at, but it is just like you pull ticks off your dog or you pull leeches off you if you went in the swimming in the swamp. It's kind of like that.
Did you ever do the crossover work? Like I know Monroe Institute had that program where you can help people cross over. And since you sort of learned that early on, did you end up experiencing any of that work at all?
Yeah, I didn't train with them. I think they're a fantastic organization and respect the heck out of all the things that they do.
Yeah.
But I learned how to do it myself when I was a kid, talking to the gray people, the sad gray people. And I learned that if I listen and sort of help them unpack their trauma, I actually became a therapist. I started working as a psychic when I was 19 and then quickly learned that I needed more skills and went back to school and, became a therapist. And I always say like doing releasement work is a lot like doing therapy. There's something that's bugging them that they're holding on to. And when they can communicate it, they feel better. Sometimes it's true. Like when they say in the Sixth Sense, like they don't know they're dead and we have to kind of break it to them kindly. But a lot of times they're stuck in a trauma loop. They're stuck in, attachment and trauma. They haven't been able to process what happened to them, especially if they died suddenly or they kind of died outside their own timeline. Like we really have like a kind of like an appointed time of our death. And we know this when people die. It's like my dad passed away in 2020 and he was 83 and everyone was like, oh my gosh, it was his time. It was a blessing. It was his time. We know that, right? And we also know when people died outside their own timeline because we can't make sense of it, and people, kids who die in like the fentanyl deaths or sudden accidents, overdoses, things like murder, suicide, things we don't expect. We know it's not their time and we have a difficult time processing it, and so do they. So I always say, like spirit releasement's like doing therapy, but they don't, keep my office hours or pay my fee.
It's kind of like
community service.
Pro bono.
Yeah. Because I'm staying in the Airbnb and I really just want a good night's sleep, and I want, the person that's coming after me to have a good night's sleep. So we just do it as we come along because we got to help people. Ghosts are just dead people or just people. And, we need to help them when we can.
So you mentioned training yourself and also how you train other people. I mean, how do you know that, or how do you make sure that you're going through enough sort of like, I don't know what to use, initiation, adeptship. I mean, there was the spiritualists and the theosophists back in the 1800s that would warn people to, like, you have to go through protocols and training. Like you can't just jump into all this stuff. Like they were even warning against yoga and meditation if you weren't experienced enough. So how do you make sure that you go through enough of that proper training?
Well, we do. And that's part of the reason why I wrote my book, or I write all of my books, is because I want to make that training available for people. And it is absolutely true. I agree with them. It can be dangerous if we don't do it. If you're doing all that, it's like being street smart. If you know what you're doing, you have a guide, you have a map, you can do it safely. And if you don't, you can get into some trouble, for sure. So it's definitely good to find a reputable teacher, do your research on your teacher, make sure that they have studied. And there's a lot of like, the TikTok psychics, like they became a psychic 5 minutes ago. And that might be not somebody you want to study with. You want to make sure they've done their chops, and they know what they're about. They have a good reputation and some training behind you.
I was just reading an article from Manly P. Hall in 1931, and he was talking about, it was the 7-day American Mahatma. So he was like railing against these like fake gurus that would come over, like these Americans that would say like, oh, I'm the only one that's taught with this guru. And they would like take people over to India to try and meet the guru. And then, I mean, it was fascinating to me that they were worried about the false healers and gurus back then in the early 1900s. Like to me, it would never even cross my mind that they was so prevalent back then, but I guess it was already coming west.
It was. And also just straight up charlatanism, you know?
Yeah.
And there were a lot of, especially with the spiritualists. So like I live in New England and there's a lot of spiritualist churches here. They're, you know, and they are a great place to get training, by the way. So if you have a spiritualist church around you, they are very, very good places to get, especially if you want to be a medium. And, you know, way back in the day when they first started it, in the 1800s, late 1800s, it was because so many people were dying, you know, the dying of wars, dying of illness, tuberculosis, so much loss of life, that people were really hungry for answers. And that just sprung out of that came out a lot of charlatans who were just there to take people's money. And it still happens. It's still, I have to like constantly tell people that I do not solicit readings because my Instagram account gets hacked like every 5 minutes. And those people will be like, oh, get a reading from me. And I'm like, look, don't fall for that. And we have to keep our wits about us and make sure when we go to a psychic that they have good cred. And a lot of psychics, there's no regulating board here. So there are a lot of people that have a lot of talent, but don't have proper training in ethics, you know, and I've done a lot of cleanup sessions for people that have gotten jacked up by bad psychics, well-meaning people who
What's
told
an
them,
example of what
you know,
that looks like?
That looks like, you know, oh, do you know your husband's having an affair? And the person goes home and the husband's not. And now they're headed to divorce court for no reason. That looks like, oh, do you know you were sexually abused as a child, but you don't remember? And then you go to therapy forever. And now you're just, you know, there's a break in your family and you won't talk to your parents. And, you know, now you've got a big problem. Or it looks like this is the worst one, probably. Oh, you've got cancers, but the doctor will never find it. And that person's just like been to now terrified out of her mind, been to every, you know, can't find any relief because the doctor's like, you don't have cancer. And she's like, but the psychic said you would never find it. And, you know, those things happen. Or, you know, you've got a curse and for $10,000, I'll take it off, but it's got to be cash and you can't tell your husband or it won't work. That's another good one. That's a hustle, you know? So we just have to have our wits about us and have some common sense. Like all of this, good psychic self-defense starts with common sense and street smarts, you know?
Is there any other protocols in your teachings that you have to put everybody through, like sort of an initiation type thing? Like,
I do teach ethics a lot. That's something that's really important for me is to train people. I know it's really exciting when we start getting psychic information about people, but we really need to learn how to keep our mouths shut and not share every little psychic thing, especially when we're learning, because no psychic is right 100% of the time. You know, the best psychics only ever right like 80% of the time on a good day. So we have to be really careful that we don't invade people's privacies. I have a don't ask, don't tell policy, even with my friends. You know, I don't try to let that interfere with my friendships. And my friends, my kids, people do not ask me, I don't say psychic things because I would have no friends if I did. Every little psychic thing that passed through me, I would have no friends. So we need to be quiet and be respectful of people's privacy.
Yeah. Are we, what do I want to ask you about now? You mentioned traveling through those invisible realms, like the astral, you mentioned the astral realm with some type of entities that are there. Like you've sort of done some mapping work of the other realms. Can you talk about that a little bit and how the differences between that?
Yeah, and my map is sort of a modified map that the Theosophical Society that you mentioned came up with. It's kind of based on that and then fleshed out with my own experiences. But I do feel like a map is super helpful. And again, going back to that street smart analogy, because it feels like if you're going through a psychic opening, it feels like random stuff's happening. It's not connected. You know, it's just random. It has no sense or no meaning to it, but it really can. And so I break it into sort of 3 realms. And this is from the Theosophical Society, the lower realm, the middle realm, and the upper realm, and learning how to navigate these, and then moving sideways through the realms, too, can help us orient ourselves so that we understand where we are, what we're doing, what kind of beings we're dealing with, where not to go, and just how to navigate through all of that.
So can you mention some of them, like what kind of beings are in a certain realm, like to stay, like if you're going to stay away from
the astral is really where you want to stay away from, especially the lower astral. So the astral is one dimension away from us, and some people, envision this as, somebody said to me the other day, it's like rooms in a dollhouse, which I thought was a really great analogy. The quantum people say they're bubbles, like bubbles that intersect each other, or are next to each other and sometimes cross over. Like sometimes these points of the bubble intersect for moments, and that's when we see ghosts. That's when we see, or cryptids. It kind of explains like why we see cryptids or even UFOs, these multidimensional beings that exist alongside of us in dimensions. And when you're psychically inclined, sensitive, or you're in the right place at the right time, we can experience these beings. It's the astral plane that's the one that's directly next to us. And I think, that's where the cryptids are. That's where on one side you have dead people, the stuck dead people, ghosts. On the other side, you have earth spirits like fairies and spirits of the natural world. But if you drop too far down, if you go down into the lower astral, did you guys ever see the movie Insidious? Terrifying, right?
Oh, I don't know if I did.
Ooh,
is that the dream one?
Yeah,
no,
that's the dream.
Oh, is it?
The different levels of dreaming and stuff?
No, that's Inception. There's one called Insidious. There's 3 of them, and whoever did that was pretty psychic and gave a really accurate depiction of what the lower astral is like, and it's absolutely terrifying. If you want to give yourself a good scare, wow. And to me, it was super scary because I was like, well, it's a little realer than I'm comfortable with. It's a little more accurate than I feel comfortable. And we just run into some pretty nasty critters down there in the lower astral. So definitely,
is that like what demons and devils and stuff like that, or like
that's even lower. That the things in the lower astral plane are more they're more like parasites. So they're parasitic. Demons, fortunately, are really rare, and you really have to look for them. You have to go out of your way, sort of, to invite them. So don't join a cult. Don't join a satanic cult. Don't do blood, sacrifice rituals. Don't conjure demons. Don't get satanic symbols tattooed on your body. Don't do those things. And if we don't do those things, we just really, it's extremely rare to run across them, thankfully.
Do you wonder why there's so much more overt symbolism out there then? Speaking of all that, I mean, it seems like it's kind of trendy to be following Satan and do this, the blood stuff. And, totally it's becoming a thing.
It is becoming a thing. And that does make me really nervous. And you can find all that stuff on the internet, just like you can find a recipe to make a bomb. You can also find a recipe to conjure a demon. And I don't know who knows why people do the things they do. I don't know. Some people are really attracted to the darkness and really called to that. Some people, I think, just think it's a laugh, and they don't really think that it's real, And I think a lot of people go into the paranormal investigation because they want to think it's real. They're not really sure, sort of titillating, exciting. And then something happens that makes it real. And then that's an earth-shaking moment. You're like, oh shit, this shit just got real. That changes things,
Do you think that there's a risk of a bigger picture, kind of like a egregore type thing happening? And are we at a spiritual war? And is that part of the spiritual war, do you think?
I go back and forth on that, Graham, and I honestly have a hard time coming in my own heart what's true there. I certainly can make a case for that and see evidence of that all over. And there are days when I'm like, I don't want to believe that it's true. So I'm just going to believe in a higher power and just think we're going to, my faith actually, in that, like, I guess my current feeling is that we're still at a choice point, we're still choosing, and that we haven't gone to the point of no return yet. And all I can do is continue to choose the light, to choose a higher vibe. The only thing I have control over in the world is the state of my own consciousness, and to keep that high and in a good vibe and hopeful, and help people uncover their lights. it's just if we can get all the light workers lit up and add more light to the situation. If we are in a battle between the light and the dark, I'm standing up for the light and doing what I can to help other people do that. I was a Star Wars fan, when I was a kid, and still am. So I'm just like a Jedi Knight. I'm going to choose the dark side is real, but I'm going to choose the light every time.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. I flip flop back and forth all the time on that,
I see evidence for it, and then I don't know.
On the light side or the dark side?
No. Just whether there's a massive spiritual war or not, or how much of it is just organic human culture evolution kind of thing, or how much of it is a dark force pushing this upon us right now.
Or how much of it is a manifest.
I don't know what side I'm on.
Oh,
right. Some people would say I'm on the dark side. Others would say I'm on the light side. Depends who you ask.
That's why I flip flop back and forth, because it's a perception thing as well.
Yeah.
Even the people like the Theosophists and stuff would say, just Satan isn't necessarily. I don't know. This is totally speculative, but the sense is that it's not really Satan that's evil. It's how you use it or whatever, or the symbology and all that. It's just symbols, but it's how you use it. It's how your intention. So,
or whether that's all just a reflection and manifestation of our own human nature. You know what I mean? Yeah. Did we make up angels and demons because we need something to represent our inner light and dark? I don't know. I certainly can make a case for one of my spiritual teachers called it the forces of opposition. And I kind of like that term, because they sometimes they're human, sometimes they're non-human. Certainly feels like there's something like that going on. And yet I feel like when we hit a certain level of consciousness, we rise above the polarity, the duality of that battle. And it's almost a different reality. It's like a different rule set in there, which sometimes I can access that. And other times I'm just down in the battle with everybody else.
Oh, that's really interesting. I like that. Rising above that polarity. Yeah. Yeah. I get the sense that you kind of feel like you can protect yourself by being very confident and sure and positive. Like it's about intention and high vibes. Like it really is, getting in that vibratory state is really protective.
And having good common sense. So I started my life as a martial artist, in my young years, mostly because I wanted to be a Jedi Knight, but I also didn't want to be afraid. I didn't want, as a woman in the world, I went to a big party school, and I didn't want to be afraid. So I studied martial arts. And what I learned is, be relaxed and safe, but, you can feel safe when you're strong and when you know what to do, So I think when we're strong, we know what to do, and we have common sense, we have spiritual power. I've seen people get rolled when they were all alike, but had no common sense.
Interesting.
Did you get like a black belt or anything? How far did you go with your martial arts?
Yeah, I got a couple of black belts.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
In what? So you could
Okinawa,
That's crazy.
Okinawa and karate. Okinawa and goji.
Never guessed that.
Yeah.
See, you never know.
I look like such a cupcake, but really I could go. I still like to get in the boxing ring. I go in the boxing ring, and I sometimes scare myself.
Good for you.
It's fun for me.
Did you use any of your how much does the psychic part play into let's say the invisible realm part play into your martial arts? I mean, were you able to harness chi a little bit more than you would have thought? Or
yeah, it was really
cheating?
good.
What
is that cheating?
Is that cheating? Like if your opponent's not psychic, are you cheating?
No, I feel like for me it was a really good way to learn about energy. I mean, I started when I was 16, so my friends were leaving their house in the middle of the night to like do drugs and have sex, and I was sneaking out of the house to go to Chinatown and go to the kung fu, the Shaolin Temple, to study kung fu.
Wow.
Yeah. My parents wouldn't let me go because Chinatown in Boston, that was a red light district. It was dangerous. And they were like, you can't go there. And I was sneaking out of the house on Saturday to go train martial arts. I was dedicated. And I feel like it gave me that really deep understanding of chi, like you said, the flow of energy. And then I moved to Japan after university. I lived there for a couple of years, and I studied more. qigong and all this energy stuff. That was really a lot, late 80s, early 90s. And there just wasn't a lot of stuff out there,
So in some ways, that kind of like nurtured it or spun. That's kind of what got you going down this thing, was the martial arts.
Absolutely. And then my hippie parents took me to transcendental meditation when I was 10. It was 1974. And I met Maharishi Yogi because that's what you did when you were hippie in 1974. You studied TM. So I learned how to meditate. Who does that? Like, I don't know. And then after that, they God love them. They took me to, remember Silva mind control? Now it's called the Silva method. All through high school, I did that. And it was such good training for a psychic. And it's still excellent training. So what was
it called again?
Now it's called the Silva method, and you can find it. You can find it on Mind Valley. Yeah, Mind Valley started taking it. But back when I did it, was called Silva Mind Control. Okay. And it was all about meditation and learning how to shift your brainwave state into the alpha. It was the first time I'd heard about guides. They teach you how to meet your guides, and they train your memory. I think between transcendental meditation as a child, Silva mind control, and martial arts, I had a really excellent start as a psychic.
Oh my God.
Kind of made up for all the torture that I went through, at school and all the other difficulties that I had to face. And I had this really interesting experience with Maharishi. I had no idea who he was. He was just this guy, my parents took me to this thing, whatever. And, he brought us back one at a time into this room in the back, and he did darshan, like he did Shaktipat, to pass like a guru touch. And he was speaking through the translator, and he was like, blah, blah, blah. And he looked at me and he was like, oh my gosh. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. Like, if you had grown up in my country, we would know what to do with you. But because basically you're in America and America is spiritually bankrupt, please, you're shit out of luck. So your childhood's going to be really rough, but you've got to stick in because you're going to help a lot of people when you're an adult. And I was like, oh my God, some adult is talking to me about this stuff. That was the first time an adult ever talked to me about it. Who was it? Maharishi Yogi. I had no idea until I went to college and I started studying comparative religion. I was like, wait a minute, I think I met that guy. So it was nuts.
That's awesome. And then, of course, you get into the comparative religion, which must have also sort of complemented the whole thing too.
Yeah. I started studying comparative religion, and then it was the 80s. It was the dawn of the new age. Thank God. And I could, really found psychic teachers. I studied with a shaman. I studied with a channeler, and I learned all this really great stuff. And that's about the time I started working as a psychic. So it's really all I've ever done.
Wow. Can you talk more about your experience with martial arts and Qigong in Japan?
Yeah, it was crazy. So I got a job in the JET program, which back in the day, they would send English speakers over to teach English inside the schools. And I went with my boyfriend, and they assigned us into this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere, really little farming town. And there's one guy who's a martial artist in the whole town, and just happens to be the best student of the founder of my style. And he's a Zen Buddhist monk and a Qigong healing master. It was like training with Yoda. And we're still friends on Facebook. We're talking.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
So can he do it? I mean, I don't mean to sort of ask these like super brash questions, but was there any like supernatural evidence, like supernatural power? Like, I mean, you see all these movies and stuff, and you hear about people pushing chi and all the monks and controlling their, whether it's biolocation or their own physiology.
Strange. That he's doing? Is he pushing chi when he does all that stuff? That's the only movie I've really seen lately.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he's doing. And so I went to Okinawa.
Liu Fireball from like Mortal Kombat back. I mean, it was like how you can actually. I think it was Street Fighter 2.
It was fun. Those are fun days, fun games. But I was in Okinawa studying with like my teacher's teacher. He was this little tiny Okinawan guy, like 5 foot, like 90 pounds soaking wet. And he's in this backyard dojo and there's me and a couple of other of my friends and a bunch of Marines, because there's all those Marine Corps bases right on Okinawa, right? And so he says to the Marines, come over here and pick me up off the floor. And he goes into this like down, stands, puts his feet into the floor. 5 Marines could not pick this 90-pound, guy up off the floor. They couldn't do it. They couldn't knock him over. They couldn't pick him up. And then he's like, come here, punch me. Come over here. And, the Marine's like, roar, jumps in there and boom, up against the wall, flew through the air and splat against the wall. They could not lay a finger on him.
See, this is what I love hearing that from firsthand, account, because, it's just right out of the movies kind of,
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
In fact, the movie Karate Kid was my style. That was my style of martial arts that I studied.
Oh, you must have loved that then back then.
Yeah, totally. It was beautiful.
You and Dave Matheson are probably the two biggest Karate Kid fans going. The wax on, wax off.
Yes,
wax on, wax
that
off.
was good stuff.
So how do you what's the easiest way to tell if I'm psychic? To not even just and I don't want it to be subjective. I want it to be yes or no and definitive.
Well, I could say yes because everyone is. And I can say well, have you ever had an experience where, you just knew the phone was going to ring before it rang and then it did. And then didn't you not only know who the phone that it was going to ring, but who was calling? Oh, that's my mother. My mother's about to call. Bing. Do you ever had a dream that came true? Do you ever have somebody walk into the room and you just kind of know what's going on with them? Have you ever said, oh, I knew that was going to happen. I could feel that coming a mile away. Those are all really, really common psychic experiences that we all have and we all relate to. And it's so interesting to me because when I was writing the book, I found this old Gallup poll from the late 80s. And I think they polled 6,000 people. It's a big one. And of those 6,000 people, 80% of them said they'd had a psychic experience. And the same 80% said they'd never told anybody about it. Which just goes to tell me that, it's so common. It's stuff that I don't think we would have made it through, evolved as humans if we didn't have a really powerful psychic ability. But it does take some studying and stuff to get it, to really activate it and put it on your fingertips.
Why is it important to learn that? Your book is called Awakening Your Psychic Ability. Why is it important for people to learn how to awaken?
I think there's really two types of people that I see that need training. One type is people that they're in the middle of a psychic opening and it's happening and they need help. They've taken yoga, Reiki, they did meditation, kind of like what you said, back in the day, those things were secret knowledge. And now they're on every street corner. But to me, they're which I think is great. And they're the trifecta of psychic open. You do that stuff, your psychic's going to open. So you do some ayahuasca or some mushrooms, your psychic might open. And when that happens, you need training or you just feel freaked out, confused, scared, you're going crazy. You don't, it's not fun to think you're going crazy and to feel overwhelmed and wondering what the heck is going on. So that's one group. The other group are people that really want to open their psychic ability. They wish they were more psychic. They just have an interest in it. Just like you have an interest in being an athlete or playing, being a musician. You have some talent and you want to maximize that talent. You got to work it. The idea that you're just magically sit down at the piano and play like Mozart. No psychic has done that. Even the psychics you see on TV and the really successful ones, they've worked it. They study, they practice, they train with people. And so that's also a possibility. And I think there's two reasons why it's so useful to do that. First of all, it can help us navigate through our own life. It's been a crazy couple of years out there. And I know a lot of people, I'm sure you do too, that really rearranged their life during the pandemic. And they probably follow their intuition. They're like, I don't know why I'm going to move to Hawaii. I'm just going to go, or I'm going to quit my day job and go over here and do this other thing. And so we can use our connection to that information to help us navigate the difficult terrain that we live in. And we can help other people. So we can, no matter what we're doing, I'm sure you have, beautiful intuitive leaps when you're in the middle of this podcast. You just know what to say. You're inspired by a question. You feel something significant or important, or even who you have on your show. These are intuitive choices, or even psychic choices. And even in your own spiritual journey, your own psychic opening, right? Your own spiritual opening had some psychic components to it.
Yeah.
So I think it's upon us. I mean, some people don't have an interest and they're like, well, that's not real. That's fine. You know, whatever. They have a different life purpose. But for many of us, it's just happening and we need to like get a grip on it, you know?
What's the difference between the intuition and the psychic ability?
It's just a matter of semantics for me in the way that I define them, that intuition is really our inner knowing. So it's our inner knowledge. You can think of it as your higher self or your own soul giving you information, your own, you know, chakra system giving you information about what's happening, where psychic is really where we connect to things that are outside us, like your angels, your dead Uncle Fred, your, you know, Jesus, Mother Mary, Buddha, Allah. You know, you're getting information from outside sources, and we really need both. The intuition is easier and comes first, and then you have to work a little bit to get the psychic stuff.
You mentioned that Instagram thing. I got a question for that now. You mentioned sort of like your account getting hacked, and I noticed that I would get we'd be followed by psychic mediums.
Hookers?
What?
A lot of Instagram hookers. That's what I know.
Well, no, this is the point is that these seem like real accounts. Like, and then as soon as like I follow them, or as soon as I can't remember if it's they follow me, I get that message that's like, hey, we'll get you a reading. They want to do a reading. And it's like, well, it's very spammy for one thing. And and it feels like it's spam, like it's not even really coming from their account. Like their account doesn't seem like it would be spammy like that. So did you mean that like when did people hack your accounts and send DMs to other people to get them to respond?
Literally every day. And as soon as we take it down, there's a new one. And they just, you know, they crib all my pictures, all my posts. It looks identical. They change a little something about the handle, you know, and then they're, so you think it's me if you're not really paying attention.
Right. Because it's actually a whole fake account. It's a
whole fake account that's so close. It looks exactly like mine, all my pictures, all my posts, everything. Except they changed the handle just a little bit. And then they're like, they DM you and they're like, hey, do you want a reading? I'm having a special. It's $100.
That's why it seems legit.
That's why it seems legit. And then you send them the money and never hear from them.
Holy shit.
Mm-hmm.
Do you like get any answers from Instagram on that, or?
We shut them down every day, literally every day. I'm not kidding. And
it's such a joke. You know, we get censored on all these platforms, and then they allow this bullshit to happen.
I know. So I had to pay for the check. You know what I mean? Like the certified, you know, account.
The blue check.
The blue check. Because, but I'm like my staff, my team, they're like every day that someone's reporting it and Instagram takes it down. And one of my friends called them because they'll give you an email address and a phone number. So she called the phone number and she said she could hear a call center in the background. It's like literally like organized. It's not some like individual who's doing it. It's a call center. It's organized. It's scary.
Yeah. So how come they don't shut these things down? I mean, it's just such bullshit.
They shut them down, but it's like a syndicate, you know?
That's what I mean. They should be busting them.
I don't know where they are. Who knows? They're like, they're not even in the States. They're somewhere off.
Yeah, I see those. They'll come by and they won't follow you, but they'll like something to try and get you to be like, oh yeah, this person followed me. So then you follow them. I seen a fake Coulter wall just the other day.
Yeah.
It looks
What's
like
a Coulter wall?
I was going to pull it up now as an example, but it looks like,
what's a Coulter wall?
It's a musician from Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean. Wow.
He probably prefers to be called he. I think it's safe to assume his gender.
I didn't know if it was I didn't know what it was. If it was a person.
I just feel bad because I know people that have gotten, fooled by that. Yeah, scammed and said they thought they were really gonna get me, and they just get ripped off.
Well, it also gives you a bad look because whenever I got those spams, I'd be like, "Oh, this is like it would destroy my image of the account of the person."
I know. So I post all over my account a couple times a week. I do not solicit, readings. I would never do that. If somebody solicits, it's not me, and they just copy that too.
Wow, that's great to know.
Yeah, so you got to be really careful.
Have you been following the UFO disclosure stuff these days? And what's your thoughts about that as far as it being either demons and angels or entities in other dimensions, or is there a bit of a crossover with the work you do and what's happening? Are you?
I think there has to be, because I see them all the time, or meet people that have had connections with that have had abductions or alien encounters of all kinds. It's just always been a part of my life as a psychic, and not me really personally, but just what my clients are experiencing. And I do feel like there's out there. And again, it's sort of hard for me. Like I can go to discern what's real. I can go into, no, they're only good, or no, they're only bad, or there's some good and there's some bad. That's kind of what I'm feeling right now. There's some that are here to help, and there's some that aren't, and are really creating a lot of problems. I definitely think the misinformation, is part of it. And I definitely think we have some alien tech that, that sort of changed our trajectory and furthered our progress. And I'm really curious. I didn't fully believe it until last year when I went to Sedona. And actually, I'm going again next week. And I went on a UFO tour. And they put you out in the middle of the desert where there's really no light pollution. And they give you military grade goggles,
With what's her name? Is it a female host? Ufologist that go, yep. I almost did that in 2013 or 2014.
So good. If you get a chance. And I just saw some stuff I could not explain. I was like, it's sort of like seeing, I saw this like big purple pulsing ball of energy. Couldn't see it with my eyes, but as soon as you put the night vision goggles on, it's clear as day. And it's pulsing, and I'm watching it. It's going straight up, and then it divides into three. The three go all around, crazy, and then smash back into one.
Wow.
And then boom, it goes off like faster than you can track with your eye. And I was like, I don't know what that was, but it was not from around here. There's nothing on our planet, on our tech that can do that. And it was like something like that every 5 minutes for 2 hours.
Wow, that's
great. I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe I just saw that. Oh my God, I can't believe I just saw that. Oh my God. It was like, then I have my night vision goggle. This was the nuts. This is the part, actually, I haven't ever told anyone this. So here we go. Here's my disclosure. So I have my night vision goggles on, and I just put them down and look straight at the tree line right in front of me. And I see figures in like shapes, humanish kind of shapes, strange looking. And then I'm like, what is that? And I take them off. I can't see. They're gone. Put them back on. They're there. That was like a life-changing moment for me. I was like, what the fuck is that? And I just couldn't.
What was your intuition about that? Like ETs or some kind of interdimensional whatever?
I think they're the same. I think ETs are interdimensional.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know. I felt like we were watching them and they were watching us. I didn't get a creepy feeling about it. I didn't feel like they were harmful. It was more that moment where it got real to a degree where I couldn't say, well, maybe that's true.
How many of you were out there?
There was a good dozen of them.
And no, I mean, you guys looking around.
It was a whole trip. I don't know. They fill up a trip. You go meet them in this, and Sedona is really interesting because there's very little light pollution and very few satellites going overhead. So you can just see things. It's, here on the East Coast, the sky never really gets dark. There's so much light pollution here.
Yeah.
So
did other people see it too, or?
Everybody saw stuff. Everybody. Wow. Everybody saw things. I don't know if anybody else saw the beings on the ground because everyone was looking up, but everyone saw stuff.
Fascinating.
That was crazy.
I can't remember why I didn't go on that. I was planning on it. I think I even met her at one point. I don't know if we had the podcast then or not, if that was before the podcast, but yeah, she must have been doing that for a long time now, probably 10, 15 years.
I really recommend it if you ever
probably
get a
used
chance.
the newer version of the goggles too. I think they were only using like Gen 4 or Gen 3 or 4 back then.
Yeah, they're brand new, like military grade night vision goggles. So cool.
Yeah. So do you travel can you leave your body and go to the astral realm, or for you, is it a psychic experience? Or do you teach people also how to go out of body?
I don't think it's a good idea. Now we do it naturally all the time. Many people do. There's certain people who leave their body, fly around at night. And that's fine if it happens on its own. But learning to do it is one of those high risk activities that I don't recommend people do unless you really, really get training. You leave your body, it sort of leaves a nice little empty shell for something else to come in. So you leave your body, you go through the astral plane, especially if you don't know quite what you're doing, and you're going to bring back some friends with you. It's problematic. And I've done cleanup sessions on that as well, unless you really, really get properly trained. So I don't do it. I don't like to do it. Sometimes we do it at night, and it's just part of our natural, like, even people who don't think they're psychic will at times travel to the upper astral in their sleep and meet with their team of guides and get course corrections, downloads, conversations. It happens. And for some people, especially people who don't believe in any of this stuff at all, that's the only time that maybe their guides have an opportunity to connect, because your conscious mind's gone bye-byes, and your higher self will sort of take, all right, we're going to talk to the now. And that's not a problem. That's fine, then safe. But astral travel, purpose of it is considered a high risk psychic activity.
So do you do it? Do you go to that realm without leaving your body then, kind of?
Well, in a way, yeah. So, we learn, especially professional psychics, learn how to navigate and move through those realms at will. So we shift our state of consciousness at will, and we learn how and where to go. If you want to angels, you have to upshift your frequency, to a very high level, because they're super high vibrational beings. It takes practice to get your vibe up that high. And it takes practice to learn how to download and understand the messages that they have. So psychics learn usually on their own how to kind of navigate through the map. Well, if I want to talk to dead people, I got to go that way. If I want to talk to fairies, I got to go that way. If I want to talk to angels, I got to go that way, and up a few levels up. I just mapped that out the way that I experienced it, which happened to, connect strongly with the Theosophical Society and how they did it.
Yeah.
Brown's read like all their stuff.
Yeah, I've narrated a lot of their books on Audible right now.
Yeah.
Because some people talk about, going to school in that realm, they can spend a couple hours in a course, or they can spend a couple years in a course and it only takes them a couple hours. Do they, would they have to leave their body for that, I guess, to do it at that level? Like,
to me, it's kind of like, people say, well, if you visit the Akashic realm, are you leaving your body to visit there? Is there a part of you that is? Are your guides coming down to meet you halfway with that information?
Yeah.
It's kind of, I think really the people that really were astral traveling are the trance channels, like the old school ones, like Edgar Cayce and Jane Roberts. The trance, they would have to trance out, and it was like he was asleep. And with Edgar Cayce, he didn't remember anything that he said. I think he was probably astral traveling, So
there's various different ways to do it.
Yeah, I tend to I teach my students to have their guides bring the information to us. I do that because I'm also doing energy work and counseling in my sessions. So I can't be leaving my body in the middle of a session. That's not going to help my client. Somebody needs to be there, holding a therapeutic space in the session, the way that I work. So I learned how to do it a different way. You don't feel too good if your psychic's passed out, and there's no one to help you if you're having a thing.
Yeah.
Well, this has been great, Lisa. Is there anything you feel like we missed that you'd like to mention before we start wrapping up?
Oh, so good. I'm super happy to talk. You asked all the good, gnarly questions, and that's what I really like to talk about.
Oh, cool. Good.
Yeah.
Where can our listeners track you down? Do you have a website, any social media? It'll all be in the show notes, but most of these motherfuckers don't bother checking the show notes. So it's always good to just blurt that URL out here and then they can hear it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. It's lisacampion.com. And I have all kinds of resources there. If you're going through a psychic opening, it can help you. I also have a really good YouTube channel that has a lot of really great free information. If you need to, feel like you want to learn some stuff. So come by my website and say hi. I'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. Are you doing any events, or besides going to Sedona coming up, are you doing any events yourself? Are you going to be attending any at all?
I don't have anything on the ticket Right now, I did a lot of that over the winter, going to expos and things like that. I'm sure I'll get back to it pretty soon.
Cool. Yeah. Right on. Well, thanks a lot.
And thank you. Thank you guys.
Yeah,
I sure enjoyed it. It was so fun.
Right on. Yeah, it's nice to meet you.
Good luck in the new interviewee venture.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And that was a chat with Lisa Campion. What do you think, buddy?
Oh, yeah, that was fantastic.
See, if you guys are wondering.
Yeah, that was great. I love getting the inside scoop about the push and chi and all that. And the man, what a great story, eh? To be going through all that. What's that?
You're going to Sedona, aren't you?
I'd love to. We got to do something in Sedona. I know it's on the list, but it is a magical place.
Maybe we should at least figure out the UFO watch, and then you can get me on board with the UFOs.
Right. Yeah. I mean, if it's as good as she says it is, which, geez, it seems to have, like, why, I'm trying to think of why I didn't go to that. But anyways, well, yeah, that would be cool to do. Like, what?
You were in Sedona too.
Well, no, I went to the back of this crystal shop where the lady works. Even I was talking to her about it. I think we had to show her. It was before the UFO Congress. That's why I was there for.
At the UFO Congress, you didn't quite have the show yet. I don't think it was in February, and the show started in June.
That's right.
You went down and used your holidays to go volunteer as a help at the UFO Congress.
That's right. I did. Yeah.
Cute.
I remember it was like, oh, what do you do for your holidays? I'm volunteering at a UFO conference.
You're adorable, buddy. Big thanks to Lisa for coming on the show. Big thanks to you guys for listening. Even bigger thanks, guys, if you are one of the 1%ers that choose to support our magnum opus here over at Grimericans.ca. If you would like to join the crowd, be a 1%er, over at Grimericans.ca/support today. Sign up for a monthly, make a one-time donation. Hey, maybe you think you're a supporter, but you're not, because PayPal subscriptions drop every day. So double check yours. Make sure if you renewed your credit card, anything like that, that subscription will have dropped off. It'll email us. Usually won't email you. So double check. Do us that favor. If you like us, if you enjoy us, if you're getting some value from a little podcast over here, head to Grimericans.ca/support today. Send some value back our way. Graham just finished a bunch more great audiobooks. This Adult Brain logo behind me, adultbrain.ca, Audible, iTunes, YouTube, all that stuff. We got some trips coming up with Randall Carlson in the fall, and we have our first Canada trip coming at you from British Columbia in the icy rivers of the mountains. So, and some hot springs. That's going to be dope. All at contact at thecabin.com. I think that's about it. All my books are free at canadianshame.ca now. Anything else? Spam Graham?
Yeah, that's it. Send us feedback. Send me your stories. Graham at Grimerica.com.
Trip report, sightings. Other than that, we love you guys. Thanks for listening. And we will see you next week.
Who's gonna kill this sacred cow? You were never political anyhow. Since when did you start trusting in the government? Since when was it okay to ridicule and shame your neighbor? Your opinions have become as fickle as artificial flavors. What matters most to you? What the TV host told you to do? Or a moral compass that points true north, oh true? Who's gonna kill this sacred cow? You were never religious anyhow. Since when did you kiss the ring on the hand of the Pope? Since when do we need pharmaceuticals to cope? Your soul has become, ever-loving soul has become as brittle as communion wafers. What matters most to you? What the Holy Ghost told you to do? Or a moral compass that points true north, oh true? I'm gonna kill this sacred cow. Bureaucrats think I'm non-essential anyhow. Since when has our culture become so lowbrow? It's all touchscreens, and nobody has any know-how. Your idea of fun, your idea of fun is taking 1,001 photos of your duck face. Matters most to you what the celebrities post told you was cool, or a moral compass that points true north. Oh, true. I'm gonna kill this sacred cow. I'm gonna kill your 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 sacred cow.